Fantasy is not so much a suspension of disbelief as it is an acceptance of our own unconsciousness. Fantasy is as old as man, beginning back in our animal history when someone had the first abstract thought. In our Western society, empirical data and rational thought have become the touchstones of experience. This is worse than cutting off half your body. The fantastic is easily half of the universe, whether you count galaxies and nucleotides or court a demon in a pentacle. This quote from the late Greg Stafford, sometimes referred to as the shaman of role-playing, is a perfect microcosm of the approach he took when creating the world of Gloranta, which is easily my favorite fantasy setting of all time bar none. Today's episode is a double feature on the only two video games set in it. The 1999 title that introduced me to the setting, known as The King of the Dragon Pass, and its surprise spiritual sequel from 2019, 6 Ages Ride Like the Wind. Both games were made by A-Sharp Studios, but before we'll get to it, I think it's important to discuss how this world came to be in general and why I think it deserves much more recognition than it got, and why it might be so obscure nowadays. The setting of Gloranta was first penned by Greg Stafford for his tabletop wargame, White Bear and Red Moon, but it gained popularity mostly through the role-playing system of RuneQuest, first published by Chaosium in 1978. From what I managed to gather, it has been quite a big name in the 80s among American role-playing nerds. It was a big departure from the mold that most of us know from D&D. Rather than have a general pool of hit points, it had hit locations with separate health pools and penalties incurred when they get damaged. Rather than have character classes that leveled up with a set amount of experience, it had multitude of skills that the character grew more competent at as they used them. Rather than rolling with 20-sided dice, it used 2d10s to simulate percentile chance of stuff happening. But none of this is what made this game great. Not to discredit all of these game mechanics, but they were copied and iterated on by many other systems since, including Chaosium's very own Call of Cthulhu RPG. What made this game special and persisted as an inspiration for all these years is the setting. On a surface level, it stands out with a very simple premise. Rather than depicting a world of sword and board, anachronistic but vaguely late medieval tales of brave warriors fighting dragons, like one generally expects when hearing fantasy, it is a world of Bronze Age heroics and myth, much closer to Conan than Dragonlance. A world where magic is very much present in the day-to-day life, and tales of divine bloodlines are alive, well, and probably within your general neighborhood. But it's the details in which the setting shines the brightest. I failed to find any information on Stafford's field of education, but it is clear he at least dabbled in anthropology when creating Gloranta, if just because of the sheer respect on display for every social group contained within this world. Let's take a step back and consider typical elements of a standard fantasy world. What does it contain? Well, on a physical level, it has various species of humanoids inhabiting it. Jack-of-all-trades humans, honorable dwarves, nature-loving and wise elves, funny little halflings and so on. Wizards and sorcerers among all of them, privy to the supernatural side of the world. A shitload of monsters with little in the way of a detailed history or culture, and a pantheon of gods that is undeniably canon and worshipped by the entire world, under a different name at worst, each with their own domain and followers. Now, let's turn to Gloranta. Here we have humans divided into several ethnic, religious and cultural groups, often regarding each other as completely alien. Elves that are actually 100% plants. Dwarves that view individualism as heresy and believe the world to be a broken machine they need to fix. Trolls that are creatures of darkness, but it doesn't mean they are evil, merely a polar opposite to humanity. Dark people so close to the metaphysical concept of death that they are cursed to die out one day, but it makes them a baller hunters of the undead. Creatures of primeval chaos, made to tear this world into shreds, and immortal, ever-reincarnating children of dragons that aim to purify their souls of any earthly connections to become true dragons, among others. Each of these groups have their own pantheons and systems of belief that they value above all else. Some have common ground in mythology with their neighbors, others are completely alien to each other. Polytheists, monotheists, atheists, all equally right, even as their stories contradict each other, all able to reenact those tales and change the very nature of the world by doing so. Ever-present magic, obvious not just to the wise men and women of the world, but also to farmers, herders and merchants. If all this relativism and supernatural shenanigans sound oddly familiar to one of the best settings ever committed to the video game medium, well, that's not a coincidence. But we'll get to that in another video, I promise. To say that making such a world believable and rich is difficult is the mother of all understatements. But I can easily say that it is my favorite setting ever created from ground up, not relying on existing world history, bar none. And with a very big power gap between it and number 2. And I completely missed its heyday by being born at the wrong time and at the wrong place. So, let's actually get to the topic of this video. The 2 video games set in Glorantha and how they made me fall in love with the world they depicted. King of Dragon Pass, first released in 1999, was an indie game before indie games were a thing in the general gaming zeitgeist. A game so niche that the way to get it was filling out a form on the company's website to get a CD with it mailed to you. In 2011, it started getting digital re-releases on PC and mobile platforms, which is how many people discovered the game, yours truly included. It is a mixture of a strategy game and a visual novel, telling the tale of Orlanthi, a society that worships a pantheon of gods centered around Orlanth, a god of storms, freedom and change. They have one rule and one rule only: no one can make you do anything. Split into clans, they move to the land of the Dragon Pass to escape a tyrant conquering their native lands. Is it called the Dragon Pass cause there are dragons in it? Nah, it's because dragons just murdered everything in it one day for no good reason. The game starts with you creating a clan, which is framed as a sort of ancestral tale of how you got to the Dragon Pass, starting with asking you what your people did when gods still walked the earth, which great deed they took part in, or what their opinion on slavery is, and ending in giving the clan a name. Everything is done through a choose-your-own-adventure visual novel menu with hand-drawn art, which is how most of the game is going to play out. As your people settle in Dragon Pass, the strategy part comes into play. At the beginning of each year, you get to allocate magic to give your clan general buffs for stuff like combat, keeping everyone healthy, or making sure your cows give you plenty of milk. Throughout the year, you have to keep your people fed, healthy, and growing. And this is of course where things get complicated. First of all, you need to mind the season. The year is split into sea, fire, earth, dark and storm seasons, each giving you enough time to do 2 actions. Raiding someone in sea season is asking for starvation, because hands are needed in the field to sow them, not holding swords. Sending out an exploration party in the dark season, or winter basically, carries a high risk of just giving everyone a case of sniffles or worse. Second, you have a circle of 7 advisors, including your clan chief, that can be clicked on every screen to chime in with their opinions. They are not static characters, you can make your own circle from the pool of available thanes at any moment, but it's advised to keep them diverse. Having a circle composed of 7 dudes that worship Orlanth and are good at leadership but not much else is a recipe for disaster. The thing is, the circle is very much treated as people. They can be wrong, out of their depth, disagree on some issues or straight up refuse to have an opinion on some problems, giving you some vague poem in reply instead. Not to mention, they can have a paranoid fear of some group, seeing their sinister hand in all ills that befall your clan. Like elves. Or women. Also, if you have a funky looking dude with 3 dots on his portrait, keep in mind that he gives you a bunch of magic in exchange for being a wild card that can easily give away a bunch of your cows for looking funny, and herds of cows is how your people perceive wealth, so you can imagine how popular that choice is. Third, there is religion and magic. You can erect temples and shrines to the Orlanthi pantheon for permanent buffs, but to get a blessing, first you need to understand it. That's a sacrifice. If you get blessings other than the one you wanted, prepare to sacrifice some more. Then there is the material cost of building the temple. And then there is the upkeep cost of annual sacrifices. If you want to get a blessing outside of what the temple consistently provides you guessed it, get ready to spill bovine blood. And the gods are finicky, inattentive shits sometimes, to be honest. Almost every time you advance through the seasons, events happen. Some clan sends a caravan your way. You encounter a clan of sentient ducks near your lands. A child throws shit at a temple. How do you deal with all that? Sometimes a giant shadow of a bird seen by a child is just a figment of their imagination. Sometimes it's an ill omen for the future. You can't just approach every problem from the perspective of a modern person, dismissing all events as superstition because A, that's completely wrong in this world, and B, the people in your clan will have some strong opinions on your leadership if you just sit on your hands all day. The last element you need to keep in mind are hero quests. If you know a myth well enough, one of your characters can go on an epic reenactment of it in the mystical land and ancient era of time didn't exist yet, good luck fucker, as they retract the steps of their chosen deity. Success means getting a major boon, a magical treasure or divine favor. Failure usually means death or a calamity upon your land. And the events your hero faces don't always line up with the tale you've heard, and you have to do some of these to win the game. The endgame is quite easy to predict, it's right there in the name. However, you will not unite all of Dragon Pass through conquest. For one, your clan is like 700 people total and the others are just as big. Combat is mostly just trading each other to take their stuff and maybe a dozen casualties on each side. Second, remember the credo of the Orlanthi, nobody can make you do anything. Raid someone enough and they'll just pack up and leave, not to deal with your shit anymore, not fall to their knee to follow your lead. Rather, unification of the land has to be achieved by making other clans want to follow you. It can be difficult as the past does not start as a blank slate. All clans that immigrated know each other, and the game starts with a dense web of alliances, feuds, favors owed and due. Shaking more hands, ending wars, and being seen as a generous, wise, and overall stand-up clan is the best path to make others value your word. And when people are willing to listen to your opinions, it is much easier to make them consider listening to your orders as well. But even that is not easy. Orlanthi, despite ostensibly following a god of freedom, have some strict traditions. Bad blood can be hard to forget, to the point where spirits of your ancestors will curse you if you dare as much as consider a truce with their enemy of old. Never raiding anyone means your warriors fall out of practice and grow discontent, opening you up to being raided or just straight up bullied by others. Respecting foreigners and trusting everything they say is a very short path to either getting shafted by them or making your people think you value strangers over your own kin, and so on and so forth. The entire game is an endless balancing act between this will to do good and be generous and kind to others and this sort of conservatism that is rooted in some old practices and knowledge and basically what some people would call wisdom, and it is extremely fascinating because of it. There are hundreds of unique events, some starting storylines that span over years and have some great payoffs, ranging from watching a character grow up to become a hero of legends to getting a squad of dinosaurs as shock troops. Or you can just make them plow the fields because holy shit, they can plow like a whole patch of land in minutes! Be aware that there are two versions of the game. Starting with the 2011 iOS release, the layout of the game was changed to better accommodate for a touchscreen display. It streamlined some mechanics for better or worse, but it added some new events and storylines in exchange. If you buy the game on GOG, you get both the re-release and the original title, so it's the best bang for your buck. Just keep in mind the original game has manual saves. 6 Ages Ride Like the Wind, released in 2019, was made by the same studio and the same team of people for the most part. It follows the same structure of being a VN strategy hybrid about leading a clan of people in the world of Glorantha. Rather than Orlanthi, you play as Hellrings, or Riders, named after a legendary hero that first tamed the goddess of horses. Your people are all sorta nomadic horse lovers, moving onto fresh lands after being exiled from a golden city by a glacier smashing it. As the world changes, you need to adapt to it and find your place. The Orlanthi are still there, though your people call their rams. And they are dicks! For one, their god killed yours. It's okay, now you worship his son and that took his place, but he killed your god! The sun, the goddamn sun, right there, that was right there in the sky! The contrast between Dragon Pass and 6 Ages is fantastic. You get an intimate look both on the inside and outside of both these cultures and how differently the world is portrayed for both of them. For the Orlanthi, the death of Yelm, the sun, was a good thing. He was a tyrannical emperor that detested all change. But for the Riders, it's the greatest tragedy. Things never changed because they were good and now everything sucks. There is also a third group of humans called Wheels, who share history and heritage with you, but they ride in chariots and tell women to stay in the kitchen so they can honestly rot. The big mechanical change in 6 Ages is ventures. Once or twice a year you can commit your people to focus on some task that has a general effect and happens in the background as you do other stuff. Forest Region game, tell people to hunt whenever they can. Preparing for a hero quest ritual, all year ceremony to prepare for it. It adds another layer of strategy to the mix without complicating things by a lot. The other change is the fact that you now have an easy way to view exactly how many clans like the cut of your jib or think you are ridiculous. Some stuff got streamlined, most noticeably the mechanics behind food, but it's not a big loss if you ask me. Most other things stayed the same. The combat is a tad more intricate, but it's still a quick and dirty skirmish, and while the gods of your pantheon are completely different, the boons they provide are rather familiar. Now, You can also find and command spirits who serve as a no-cost buff to some actions, but getting their favor is a coin toss unless you promise to free them. The most interesting part of Ride Like the Wind comes from the time period it's set in. King of Dragon Pass took place in the Third Age, so here, 1,000-something years after time got started. Six Ages takes place in the Storm Age, right over here. Time being non-linear, gods walking the earth and interacting with mortals, divinely gifted heroes being born are all a part of this age. Yelm was just killed by Orlan, give or take a few thousand years. As you could probably guess from the name, Six Ages promises to be a whole saga, taking your clan throughout the centuries of Gloranthian timeline and mythology, with Ride Like the Wind being just the first installment. I really look forward to them delivering on this promise because the age that will come in the second part, the Great Darkness, is some spicy stuff, let me tell you. Aside from that, there is not much to say due to how similar the games are. If you like one, you will like the other. If not, well, same deal. I don't want to spoil which direction Ride Like the Wind plots goes, because it has some interesting twists and choices that really made me question what the right choice would be. The game portrays the notion of having to deal with things that are brand new to you really well. Also, you can tell a bunch of simps to go fly a kite in one of the hero quests, so A+ story design right there. Mwah. If there is one criticism I have of these games, it's there are some sections that may feel like the RNG is just fucking you over. All roles are hidden, but sending your best warrior and explorer out only for them to never return because of presumably some bad dice results feels like bullshit. Both games let you retrace your steps to the beginning of each year by loading a save, but the events get rerolled as well, so the choice comes at a cost. I do highly recommend checking both King of the Dragon Pass and Six Ages out. You can get them on PC, Mac or any mobile platform. They're both 20-something hours experiences on a perfect run. I really want A# to deliver on the other 5 ages of Gloranthan history and mythology, and if that steers more interest in the setting and someone could get a license to create, say, a full-fledged RPG in this world, this would make me a very, very happy man. Then again, I thought the same about Paranoia, so maybe I'm just a stupid idiot. God, that still hurts.